how do we start reaching out to people on the right? Should we reach out to people on the right? Is that worthwhile? Are we giving up our own values by interacting with some of these people that might hold views that we consider a bit of, like, abhorrent? Or is it important that we build a coalition of all people in this country to come together on the stuff that we agree on the most? What's your view on that and how we talk to the right?
I mean, I just think the left has a problem of literally not wanting to talk to anybody that they don't agree with. I mean, I think that's essentially the problem, and the mainstream media, of course, plays really well into that. That's why they haven't heard somebody like you, because you like, even though people like you and I exist, the media make sure to put us all in one general category, as with the liberals. And I've experienced it myself, as you have. When I talk to Republicans, some of my family members are Republican, some people that I have met are Republican, and they, they're so flabbergasted when I say I hate Nancy Pelosi, and I think
Yeah, they're
she's
so
awful.
confused.
And they don't get it. They're like, wait, you hate Nancy Pelosi? And I'm like, yeah, I hate Hillary Clinton. We can talk about how Russiagate is fake and blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes down to the immigration issues or the issues of race, those are the areas I think where we disagree on. But even if you talk about those things from a rational perspective, and you don't use the stupid platitudes that the Democratic establishment does, you get a lot further with these people, and you realize, like, you guys that don't necessarily, might not even disagree as much. They just might be ill-informed of the truth, because they are listening to mainstream media propaganda that tells them that that we're all the same. And the left needs to stop making a monolith out of the right too, because not everybody on the right is a Nazi. It's tough to say that too, like, as a leftist, but not everybody on the right is a Nazi. There's people that are like the more centrist to lefter libertarians that really believe in a lot of, like, civil liberties and are very anti-war, but just don't really care about racial issues as much at all. And so we have to ask ourselves, yes, we should talk to the other side, but we have to make sure that we're not, that doesn't mean that we're compromising on our values. It just simply means you're listening to what another person's saying, you're taking it in, and you're letting them know that. I don't understand why it's we have to bash people like Cornel West for going on Tucker Carlson, when that's exactly what should be happening. We need people like Tucker Carlson's audience, from, like, who watch Tucker Carlson, to hear what Dr. Cornel West is saying, because it's important, because that is actually more of a leftist talking there. That's not a neoliberal. He hates neoliberals. He rags on them all the time. And so if we don't do that, they're never going to hear the good ideas we have. They're never going to see that we're different, and we're never going to make those connections at all. And it's absolutely possible to make those connections. Now, does that mean you go to a Ku Klux Klan member and tell them that you want to have tea with them? You don't necessarily have to go that far, but if we don't talk to people we disagree with, we're just going to get in this echo chamber, and we're going to continue being polarized and polarizing ourselves from any sort of solution. I don't necessarily think that one giant umbrella party is going to solve all our problems, because there are vast differences. But I think we could get more people on our side of the anti-establishment, and that hate the oligarchy and the duopoly, if we talk to them before we vilify them. We are definitely, I'm not asking Black and brown people to go and okay racism and talk to a person that is a white supremacist and accept that, well, we're not going to talk about race, but we're going to deal with all these other issues. I'm not asking them to do that. And what I am asking, especially of the people who are journalists, who are commentators, who are on social media and stuff, you should be talking to people you disagree with. At the very least, you're going to show how misinformed they are. And at best, you'll convert them to a couple of ideas that we have, and show them that not everybody on the left is a monolith.
I've had more success converting people on the right to becoming leftist than I've had with liberals. Trying to talk to liberals, I always end up becoming the evil, the demon in terms of the things that I'm fighting for and talking to. But I found that not all people on the right, because it kind of makes you feel a little dirty when you have some of these conversations, because some of the views that they hold are hard for me to hear sometimes. But is there a movement on the right in California, in this country, that you think that we can capture and bring to our side?
I don't know if I've seen necessarily a particular movement on the right. I mean, I see Trump's people, but I do see a lot of minorities walking away from the Democratic Party. And I think that if there were people like more like the Bernie Sanders or the Tulsi Gabbard types, uh, Bernie Sanders circa 2016, um, that we're talking to these people policy wise and like very nuanced, they would come to our side. But it's because we have right now a very like liberal versus Republican propaganda BS thing going on that we lose these people. I think there's a possibility where we can agree with, let's say, if the guy that's running against Maxine Waters, he is completely against the police, the Black Lives Matter protesters, and he's black, and he's completely like vilifying them, etc. But he is running against Maxine Waters, and he points out some of the things she has done that have been awful. So you can find ways to really like tell these politicians, okay, I agree with you on this, but what about this? And so you can kind of catch them in that. I mean, I think more than finding people on the right, I think the libertarians that are sort of usually, you know, in America we have mostly a libertarian, right? Those people we could find commonalities with, because they don't want to spend more money on war. It's not because they care necessarily about the cost of life, but they care about the cost and the money and where it's going. So you can find commonality in that. You can find commonality in that, and with those people in regards to drugs and making drugs legal, in regards to sex work, in regards to a multitude of things that the liberals don't really care about in regards to civil liberties and Julian Assange. I found myself in a very interesting position when I point out people like Cassandra Fairbanks, who are like literal outright Nazis, yet she's out there supporting Julian Assange, which is freedom of speech, which is journalism. But when it comes to the protesters, oh, they're looters, they're rioters, they're awful, like get rid of them all, yay, Kyle Rittenhouse. And I'm just like, well, I'm like, yeah, okay, support Assange, but how do you support Assange if you aren't also going to stand up to the police state here, which is an arm of the CIA that's in the military industrial complex that are going after this man? I mean, you can't cherry pick. So in essence, we can expose those people. We can like expose that information to them if they don't get it, because it is something that it's important. I don't have to throw them all out, but I'm not a fan, you know, of people like Fairbanks at all. But I am saying, like, if she believes in Julian Assange and freedom of speech and all that, there is a way to be like, okay, I agree with you on that. So here's your hypocrisy of why that you're not applying that same thing to here. And in a way, we own them. If we disagree, we can disagree with them or agree with them, but we can show people the truth, because the truth is the truth no matter what. And so I just think there's more opportunity to talk to the libertarian type of ideology, which what there was an article on Jacobin trying to say that the right-wing populism is Nazism, and I just don't agree with that. I think that some of the right-wing populists are not necessarily as far right as others. I mean, some of them just are completely non-empathetic to immigration. They completely got it all wrong. They think that you need a wall, and they think you need a lot of restriction, but I don't think that necessarily makes them a fascist. I think sometimes we do throw that word out too much on the left in order to like dismiss the things we don't agree on. For instance, I don't think Sager is a fascist. I think he's a conservative, and I think there are things I could agree with him on a lot. And I think, you know, having somebody like him and Crystal Ball together it shows you that you can agree on economic policy a lot. There's just some social issues that you and tactics that you don't agree with, and we don't have to vilify every single person who disagrees with us. In fact, we could form an anti-establishment movement with that. We can't pretend that we're all going to agree on everything, though. So again, I just think like people need to really have more conversations with each other, and through those conversations, I think we, the people who are on the right side of justice, etc., we can show why it is the way we think, and why what we're saying is so true.
You talked about Cornell West earlier and Sagar and a lot of these people. I've been trying to take and you guys, a cue from a lot of these types of conversations and approaching people. I really like Cornell of even Donald Trump, he still calls brother Trump. And, and you
Yeah.
can see the anger that he has for a lot of these people and a lot of these positions, but at least when he's talking to them, he recognizes them as a human being. And I think it's hard to do sometimes. He brought up Cassandra Fairbanks. I had my own counter where I started following her, and I actually thought she was one of our allies because she was tweeting so much about Assange at one point, and then just went completely off the rails with some things that I thought were kind of monstrous in terms of how she views immigrants and all of these people. And I kind of stopped engaging on that front. And that's just, I think, been one of the biggest struggles, is trying to find ways to not demonize people while also not giving in to any of their kind of fucked up ways of thinking and some of their viewpoints, and just trying to have a conversation so that they'll accept some factual information that I can show them, because I don't think that they're not bad people, that no one wants, that most people don't want to be a bad person. We're all trying to figure out a way to do the right thing, but it's so messy. And I try to remember that it's the propaganda and the people that are messaging to these people that are the real problem. And how we break through to that, I don't know. The religious right, as Hedges is worried about, is what kind of scares me the most, because I see them crying out for literal fascism the most. They want people to die. They want all leftists rounded up and thrown in jails, as some of them have told me. And overcoming that sentiment that's rooted in religion, I think, is a harder ask to break through, because I'm not going to be able to rationalize with some of them the same way.
Exactly.
So it's I've really tried to avoid getting into too many tangles with them. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to click like and subscribe. Also, be sure to ring that bell if you'd like notifications when we release new videos, and I promise they are coming. Also, you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at wearethenewleft. And if Corona hasn't stolen your job and you'd like to see more videos like this, then please consider supporting the show on Patreon or donating.